today how we do our live streaming to YouTube. Hello, I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Later on this evening, I'm going to be going live on YouTube, and I thought it might be useful to also record a little bit behind the scenes here so you can see how we go about live streaming. Whilst we haven't streamed Digital Finance Analytics programs to YouTube before, we have been streaming for other clients for quite a long time. So our setup is relatively sophisticated, and hopefully that shows in the production values this evening. But also I wanted to explain how we go about it. So I'm going to take you through the cameras. I'll cover the microphone and audio setup that we've got. I'll then cover the production switcher. I'll talk about live streaming, and I'll also talk about the desktop setup I have here to control it all. So let's get going. To do that, I'm going to switch from the main camera here over to one of the other cameras, which is my portable camera, so I can actually wander it around the table. Okay, so the first thing to notice is that we have a number of individual cameras mounted. So here are a couple of the main ones. So we have a Sony camera here with nice autofocus on it, so it keeps me in focus all the time. That's also got the XLR audio input, which means that it syncs nicely to the picture. Then I have a Blackmagic camera here, which really is a studio camera. It's remote controlled from the production switcher, which makes it very easy to manage it. Then I have another camera over here, a rather old Panasonic, but actually it's quite good because it's got autofocus, and I've managed to color balance it quite well with the other camera system. We've also got one other Blackmagic camera over there, which is mounted away in the background, and right over there at the moment we've got one over in the distance as well. And so you can see that we've got a few different views, so I can actually switch through now from the different views. So that's from camera 1, which is the main camera over there, camera 2, which is the one that we've been using earlier on, camera 3, which is the one from over there, the other side, which gives me the overall setup, and that means that you can see how the whole bench is arranged and how all the pieces work. Camera 4 is actually the live feed from the computers, and that allows me then to, for example, use the PowerPoint slide here to go through and talk to various items as we go through. That's quite useful. I can obviously put other things up on the screen there. I'm mirroring that particular computer screen directly on the output. Camera 5 is my main camera when I'm doing most of my work. That's the one that I actually talk to. Again, that's the Sony, got autofocus on it, so it's actually pretty effective. Camera 6, which is the portable camera. And camera 8, which is the Panasonic over here. And I don't know whether you can see, but if I turn that around to put that back on there, right, you may be able to see, if I go up close enough, that the Panasonic actually has autofocus, face focus on that. So it keeps me in focus. Behind me is the production switcher control screen. So effectively you've got the program, which is what's going out. You've got the preview, which is the next thing queued. And then you've got the individual cameras. Camera 7 isn't connected at the moment. Everything else is connected. So that means that I can easily switch between individual cameras. And in fact, if you watch the screen there, as the cameras switch, you can see the image changing like so. Now, behind the scenes, this is a Blackmagic machine. It's quite new actually, just come out It's the 4K upgrade. I've been using an alternative version for some time, but this is the one that has come out quite recently. The beauty of it is that it automatically syncs different standards and frame sizes in the switcher, and that's unusual. The previous versions didn't do that. So I can operate all the cameras here simply by pushing the buttons, which means that you can get to see how things work, and I can also queue things up for preview. That time nothing changed because I didn't commit, I just set them up for preview. And this is actually quite sophisticated because it allows me, for example, to handle a whole bunch of different types of transitions. It also allows me to do things like picture within picture. So for example, I can do that, and suddenly now I appear as an inset from the other camera, and you can still see what I'm doing. So that's quite useful. I've also got, as you may have noticed, the DFA logo up in the top right hand corner. That's also something that is generated again through the production switcher. And the other thing about it is that the two Blackmagic cameras are actually also remotely controlled from these controls too. So I can actually adjust things like the focus and zoom and gain and all the other bits and pieces directly from here. So I can literally at my desk tune the cameras. I don't have any electronically controlled zooms on the system at the moment, but I do have the ability to change the iris and the gain and all the other different elements. So that's the control box, and you can see there that the audio is coming in through channel 5, which is the main microphone, and if I switch that over, there you go, so that's now back on the main channel. Now, whilst that's pretty useful to be able to control things, it's sort of out there around the side, so I don't tend to use that when I'm actually going live. What I've also got is an iPad set up with all the control buttons. So I've got a mirror of the control buttons actually on the iPad. So if I switch any of these on the iPad, I'm just using the previews, it's just like using the controller down there. And if I were to touch this one, which will be going live, okay, I can change the view through each particular channel and come back to there. Now, I find this the most effective way of being able to handle the facilities while I'm actually talking and working when I go live. And there's also a little bit of finesse. So, for example, if I want to, I can fade, do a crossfade rather than just a cut between different cameras, and that gives a little bit of a more professional flavour, perhaps. And I've also got loaded some of the media that I use. That's actually just the DFA logo, which is quite helpful sometimes to have. Let's go back to camera 6. Okay, so that's that. So that's how it all works. And effectively, the system takes all the various inputs. We can control them through the program switcher, which is what we've been talking about down here. Okay, so I'm just going to talk briefly about the audio now. Firstly, I've got an audio feed coming out from the Shogun Inferno, which effectively goes into my earpiece, and that allows me to monitor what's going on and keep track of all the various audio feeds that are coming in to make sure that the levels are right and that the sound is okay. And the great thing about this setup is no delay on the audio, so I'm actually hearing it in real time. The microphone that I use is a Rode. It's above me there. It's a shotgun microphone, and the beauty of that is that it gives quite good coverage in the area that I'm in without getting in the way. It's better than the lavalier. It's got higher quality, and I can also control it as well pretty easily. It goes via the XLR feed into the Sony camera, which is over there, and the Sony camera has the XLR input on the top of it. So that then flows into the production switcher via the camera. So that's the way I do audio. Seems to work. Whilst a lot of the cameras do have audio coming through as well, I tend to just focus on one microphone and one feed so that the audio doesn't switch about between cameras when I'm actually talking. I take the earphone out again now, don't need that at the moment. So I hope that gives you a bit of a flavour of the audio side of things. And then there's basically all the program comes out, and it essentially comes out by way of a single, effectively a single cable. And that single cable then goes round to my streamer, and I've got the streamer up here. This is an AJA streamer, and that's set up to be able to stream live to YouTube. If I push the stream button on the front, I'm not going to, we'd actually go live on air at the moment. So if I then if I move around from the streamer, you can actually go around and see the other device that I've got here, which is a Shogun Inferno. And in fact, I'm recording this particular program at the moment on the Shogun. And that allows me then to see in my line of sight what I'm actually doing. So there you go. In a nutshell, that's how we do the streaming. And it's allows us to get relatively clever. I'm not going to do anything very, very sporty tonight. I'm simply going to do the minimum that I need to do to be able to have a reasonable go tonight. But essentially, we'll run a little bit of the theme beforehand. We'll then queue up the main camera. We'll come live. We'll then go to the various presentations, take the Q&As. I'll have the chat session up on the screen. So that's the other thing we'll have, is that we'll have the YouTube chat session up. And I can also see the status of the stream on the computer in front of me, so I can make sure that everything is streaming. And fingers crossed, assuming the NBN works, we can all go live. So I hope you found that useful and interesting, and I look forward to talking with you next time. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.